Hey, let's jump into some A-League transfer news right now. And there's a lot. The biggest one that we have to talk about is Tilio. We touched on it in last week's podcast. The deal is now done. Tilio has signed for Celtic from Melbourne City for what is apparently a record transfer fee, we are hearing, in excess of apparently over $2 million, which is huge. And, it's been a great transfer window for Melbourne City in terms of, bringing some transfer fees. We saw Aidan O'Neill head overseas, Geordie Boss as well. Plenty of reshuffle in that Melbourne City squad heading into next year. And one of those players that they have signed is Steven Ugarkovic, who joins the club. He spent some time at Wellington Phoenix last season, of course, the former Wanderer and Newcastle Jet. Now at his fourth A-League side. Decent signing. It looks like he's going to be that straight swap for Aidan O'Neill as defensive midfielder. Jason Cummings departs the A-League. We'd heard rumours of it, about it for many weeks now, but Jason Cummings has officially departed Central Coast Mariners to join a club in the Indian Super League. We wish Cummings all the best. Sticking with Central Coast Mariners, Sammy Silvera is linked with a move to Hearts, according to journalist Barry Anderson. We're hearing that apparently a six-figure transfer fee could be involved for Sammy Silvera, who's coming off a fantastic A-League men's campaign with the Mariners. Western Sydney Wanderers have made an interesting signing. Marcus Antonsen, a 32-year-old striker. He's got experience with the likes of Leeds United, Blackburn Rovers in England. He's signed for Western Sydney Wanderers and has scored a decent number of goals over his career. Plenty of experience as well, playing in a variety of levels and leagues across Europe, and most recently in the Saudi Arabian League as well. And speaking of Wanderers strikers, Cassini Yengi joins Portsmouth from Western Sydney Wanderers. Apparently there is a transfer fee involved in this one. Cassini Yengi didn't quite get too much game time, probably as what he would have hoped at the Wanderers last year. Wanderers have also signed George Antonis on a scholarship contract, the midfielder. He's also the current NPL 1 captain for the Wanderers side in that competition. Speaking of their rivals now, some movement around Sydney FC. Paulo Retre has departed Sydney FC after 6 seasons with the club, a successful time with Sydney FC. They have also announced the departures of James Donachie and Alex Parsons. Alex Parsons has rejoined Brisbane Roar, the club that he joined Sydney FC from. So a return to the Queensland club for Parsons. And then lastly, with the Sky Blues, they have signed Patrick Wood on a 2-year extension, re-signing Patrick Wood with Lafondra departing. Is this a chance for Patrick Wood to cement himself as a starting striker for the Sky Blues for the upcoming campaign? One more piece of news from the Sky Blues, actually. They have signed goalkeeper Gus Hoofsloot. Apologies if I got that pronunciation wrong. From the academy side. They're signing him on a scholarship contract. We are jumping to the third and final Sydney club as we're talking about Macarthur FC. They've completed a couple of signings here. First one is pretty interesting. Rafael Borges Rodriguez has signed. He was formerly of Melbourne City. Very exciting young player with a lot of potential. Simply not getting enough game time at Melbourne City. I like this signing. He's going to a club at Macarthur FC where he could potentially, see some decent starting minutes. The Bulls have also signed Christian Popovic, who returns to the A-League, former Perth Glory midfielder. Popovic recently playing over in Croatia, of course, son of the famous Tony Popovic, current Melbourne Victory head coach. It's interesting to see from Macarthur FC, 2 good young players, and maybe that's going to be the idea moving forward at Macarthur now under Mile Stojowski, who he himself is a relatively young coach. To take a youthful approach moving forward might be the way to go. The Bulls have also re-signed their player of the year from last season, Ivan Vujetsa, who has inked on for the next 2 years as well. Some news out of Brisbane Roar, of course, as we mentioned before, they have signed Alex Parsons, who has departed Sydney FC. They've also picked up Matt Acton, again, who was formerly of Brisbane Roar many years ago, but has spent the last few years at Melbourne Victory. He has joined Brisbane Roar. Raman Akbari has departed the club also. Newcastle Jets, they have signed, this is an interesting one as a Mariners fan, they have signed Lockie Bayliss from the Mariners Academy. Lockie Bayliss, versatile player, mainly a midfielder. He has travelled up the F3 or the M1 if you like to join Newcastle Jets. The Jets also re-signing Daniel Steins for the upcoming season as well. In regards to Melbourne Victory, they have announced the departure of George Timotheou, the centre back who didn't quite see too much game time this past season. George Timotheou. And then lastly, with Melbourne Victory, they of course announced scholarship contracts for defenders Joshua Insera and Franco Lino. So maybe a bit more of a youthful approach once again this time at Melbourne victory. That is all the transfer news from the past week. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in as always. My name's Lockie. This is Coast What Football, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.